Today, we're going to sail into deep and dangerous waters with 7 horror stories involving people trapped on desert islands. Get ready to hear chilling tales of tropical paradises that turned into nightmares, sinister encounters in isolated places by the ocean, and what can happen when you're completely alone, surrounded only by water and mysteries. So sit back, make sure you're not listening to the sound of the waves too closely, and let's begin this spine-chilling journey. Oh, and before the tide comes in, be sure to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and leave a like. This helps the channel a lot and ensures that you don't miss any scary content like this. Let's go. On the Collector, the sea was calm as the horizon dreams. A small luxury yacht carrying 8 tourists and 3 crew set off from Port Blair for a tour of the Andaman archipelago. The storm came out of nowhere, a violent weather cell undetected. By local radar. Hold on, shouted Captain Singh as 20-foot waves lashed the vessel. The impact on an unmapped reef was devastating. Rebecca Chen, a 34-year-old photojournalist, remembered only fragments of the sinking, the deafening roar, the screams, the darkness of the water, and finally, the rough sand against her face. As the tide deposited her on the beach, at dawn, 5 survivors met. Rebecca, Australian couple Ethan and Sarah Cooper, retired French doctor Dr. Moreau, and Raj, one of the Indian crew. "We're alive," said Ethan, a 40-year-old former military man. "We need to find clean water and build shelter." On the second day, while searching for water, Raj made a disturbing discovery. A well-marked trail, clearly made by humans. Following the trail, they came upon a rustic but well-built cabin. The man who emerged appeared to be about 70 years old, tall, thin, with suntanned skin and long white hair and beard. "Visitors," he said in indefinable English. "How rare. I'm Walter Kreutz." Walter explained that he had been living on the island for many decades after his own shipwreck. He refused to discuss his previous life, mentioning only that he was a scientist and that the island had become his permanent laboratory. "You're lucky," he commented. Few survived the reefs on the eastern side. That night, Walter offered shelter in a second cabin. Rebecca remained alert, disturbed by details that did not add up. Walter's fluency in several languages, his apparent satisfaction with isolation, and the lack of any attempt to construct rescue beacons. The next morning, Walter went out to check his traps. Rebecca convinced the others to investigate further. Behind the main cabin, they found a door camouflaged in vegetation, leading to a partially underground bunker, likely an abandoned military structure from World War II. The interior was lit by solar-powered lanterns. On the walls, shelves displayed dozens of glass containers containing human parts preserved in formaldehyde. Hands, ears, eyes, all labeled with dates and names. "My God," Dr. Moreau murmured. "Some of these are over 30 years old." On a central table, a leather-bound diary revealed that Walter Kreutz was actually Dr. Werner Kreutz, a German geneticist who had disappeared in 1989. The entries documented his evolution on the island, from desperate survivor to methodical collector. "Loneliness has transformed me," one passage read. "I have come to realize that each castaway brings with him not only temporary companionship, but the opportunity to preserve human diversity in my collection." The most recent entries described an annual ritual. On the anniversary of his arrival on the island, Walter would release the castaways he had held prisoner during the year, giving them a few hours head start before hunting them. The most interesting specimens were preserved in his collection. "He'll be back soon," Raj warned. "We need to get out of here." Running back to the beach, the group debated their options. Their plan was interrupted by the sound of a gunshot. Raj fell, hit in the shoulder. "Rude visitors," Walter called, his voice now cold. You shouldn't have entered my lab without permission." The next few hours turned into a nightmare of cat and mouse across the island. Walter, knowing every inch of the terrain, moved like a ghost among the trees. Sarah was the first to disappear, caught in a camouflage net. Dr. Moreau was next, shot in the leg. By nightfall, only Rebecca and Ethan remained free, hidden in a rock formation. "He's messing with us," Ethan whispered. "It's not death he wants," Rebecca replied. "It's the hunt, the ritual." As darkness fell, they made their final move. Not to flee, but to attack. Using makeshift torches, they set fire to the dry vegetation near the bunker, creating a distraction while they approached the main hut. They found Sarah and Raj tied up, but not Dr. Moreau. As they freed them, Walter appeared, in the shadows, gun in hand. "Interesting," he commented. "In 36 years, you're only the second group to try to fight instead of flee." In the final confrontation, Ethan managed to disarm Walter, but the old man was surprisingly strong. Rebecca found and activated an old flare from Walter's stash, a distress call he'd never used. The red glow was spotted by an Indian Coast Guard vessel searching the area. When rescuers arrived the next morning, they found 4 traumatized castaways and a bunker containing evidence of decades of horror. Walter had disappeared into the forest, taking Dr. Moreau with him. Subsequent investigation revealed Walter Kreutz's true identity and connected him to at least 17 documented disappearances of shipwrecked people and fishermen in the region. His collection contained the remains of over 40 different individuals. Despite extensive searches, Walter was never found. For Rebecca Chen, who documented the experience in an award-winning book, there remains the disturbing certainty that, somewhere in the Indian Ocean, a patient collector may be rebuilding his gallery, waiting for the sea to deliver new specimens for his macabre collection. The experience. The first sound Maya Patel heard was the sound of waves crashing against rocks. Her eyes opened to a grey sky, her body lying on damp, cold sand. The pain in her head throbbed as she tried to organize her fragmented thoughts. "The boat," she murmured, flashing back to her. The 32-year-old psychologist had accepted an invitation to a conference in Aberdeen, Scotland. She remembered boarding a small ferry to visit a historic island. After that, there was nothing but darkness. Stumbling to her feet, Maya surveyed her surroundings. A narrow beach surrounded by steep cliffs with no sign of civilization. Her cell phone, soaked in salt water, was dead. Her purse was gone, but oddly enough, she still had her watch and a small Swiss Army knife in her coat pocket. Following the shoreline, Maya found a narrow trail that led up the cliff. At the top, she spotted a rustic cabin about a kilometer away, the only structure visible in the desolate landscape. The island seemed small, perhaps 2 miles across, dominated by scrubland and exposed rocks. The cabin was stocked with basic supplies: bottled water, non-perishable food, blankets, a flashlight, and a first aid kit. On the central table was an old radio and a sealed envelope with his name handwritten on it. "Dr. Patel," the letter began. "Welcome to the experiment. You have been carefully selected because of your professional background in survival psychology. Over the next few days, you will face a series of challenges designed to test your limits. You will receive daily radio briefings at 9 a.m. Your participation is not optional. Attempts to escape will result in severe consequences. You are being watched." Maya examined the cabin thoroughly, discovering 3 small cameras hidden in the corners. Outside, she spotted 2 more camouflaged among the rocks. Someone was watching. At 9 o'clock precisely, the radio crackled. "Good morning, Dr. Patel. Your first challenge is simple. Find food. The supplies in the cabin will only last 3 days. Good luck." The next few days followed a similar pattern. Each morning brought a new challenge: building an alternative shelter during a storm, crossing a canyon using only materials found on the island, treating a simulated wound with limited resources. On the fourth day, the tone changed. Congratulations on your adaptability, Dr. Patel. Our viewers are impressed. Today, we've raised the stakes. At the northern tip of the island, you'll find a locked box containing a satellite phone. The key is hidden in one of the tide pools at the base of the eastern cliff. You have 6 hours before the tide is fully in. Spectators. Gambling. Maya muttered, the reality of her situation becoming clear. This was not a scientific experiment, but some kind of perverse spectacle. The search for the key was brutal. The tide pools were numerous, some deep enough to submerge completely. The icy water of the North Sea numbed his limbs as he methodically checked each one. Finally, he found the small metal key wedged between corals. The box at the north end contained, as promised, a telephone, but upon turning it on, Maya discovered that it was locked, allowing only calls to a single programmed number. "Hello, Dr. Patel," a male voice with a slight Scandinavian accent answered. "Impressive performance. Today, the stakes are rising for you. Who are you? What do you want?" Maya demanded. "We are facilitators of exclusive entertainment for select clientele. As for what we want, simply to observe how a trained mind like yours responds to extreme situations. Our guests bet not only on their survival, but on their specific choices. Under pressure, over the next few days, the challenges intensified. Food and water became scarce. One night, Maya awoke to smoke. The cabin had been remotely set on fire, forcing her to jump out of the window and lose all of her remaining supplies. During a particularly violent storm, while sheltering in a coastal cave, Maya found something unexpected. Tally marks scratched into the rock wall. Someone had spent enough time there to mark 47 days. "I'm not the first," she realized, a new horror emerging. The next morning, the backup radio he carried broadcast a different message. "Congratulations on surviving 2 weeks, Dr. Patel. You have outperformed 73% of our previous participants. Today, we offer you a choice. On the southern tip of the island, an inflatable boat has been left for you. It is sufficient to reach the Scottish coast if the weather remains favorable. Alternatively, you can choose to stay another week for a final challenge, after which we guarantee rescue regardless of the outcome." Maya immediately suspected a trap. Why would they offer an escape? Using her knowledge of psychology, Maya did the unexpected. Instead of going directly to the boat or staying put, she used materials from the island to create a large SOS message visible from the air, then hid to observe. Your intuition was correct. A drone flew overhead, clearly monitoring his decision. When the drone departed, Maya ran to the boat, finding it intact but with limited fuel. Enough for a few hours, not enough to reach the mainland. Instead of heading towards Scotland, Maya sailed to a small island she had spotted on the horizon. It was a calculated risk. It could have been just another arena for the experiment, but it could also have real inhabitants. Her gamble paid off. The island was home to a small, automated weather station that was visited weekly by technicians. Using the station's emergency radio, Maya contacted the Coast Guard. The subsequent investigation revealed a sophisticated operation. The experience was an illegal entertainment service for the ultra-rich, operating for 5 years. 12 previous participants had disappeared, presumed killed during the challenges. The organizers, a consortium of Northern European businessmen, had escaped before authorities could fully track them down. The Isle of the Damned. The sun was setting as Michael Reeves's small chartered fishing boat approached the coordinates he had spent a fortune obtaining. A 41-year-old human rights lawyer, Michael had spent the past 18 months investigating a disturbing pattern: high-profile criminals simply disappearing from prison systems in various countries. "It must be here," he muttered, consulting. His GPS. According to his source, a former Thai intelligence officer, there was an island not listed on official maps, known only as Terminal among government agencies. The island loomed in the shadows, a dark mass dominated by dense rainforest and surrounded by treacherous reefs. Michael anchored a safe distance away, planning to approach at dawn. During the night, he was awakened by a metallic sound. Investigating with a flashlight, he discovered that someone had damaged the engine and punctured the hull. Water was slowly entering the boat. "I've been discovered," he realized, quickly gathering his essential equipment into his waterproof backpack. Before the boat sank completely, he threw himself into the sea, swimming determinedly towards the island. Exhaustion was taking over his body when he finally reached the rocky beach. Dragging himself beyond the tide line, Michael collapsed, falling. Asleep instantly, he was awakened by harsh voices and the cold touch of metal at his throat. "Another gift from our benefactors?" a man asked in English with a strong Russian accent. "Or an intruder?" Michael opened his eyes to find 3 men surrounding him. The one holding a makeshift spear to his neck had a scar that split his face in half. "I'm a lawyer," Michael explained. "I'm investigating prisoner disappearances." The scarred man laughed bitterly. "Welcome to their final destination. I am Kazimir, serial killer according to the Russian authorities. I have been here for 7 years. Under escort, Michael was taken inland. What he saw defied his expectations, a rudimentary but organized community. About 60 men and a few women lived in shelters, built from materials from the island and wrecks. "Welcome to the Terminal," Casimir introduced, "where the governments of the world send those they wish to forget forever, without the hassle of official executions or documented life sentences." In the center of the camp, a burly man with Maori tribal tattoos watched their arrival. "The council will decide your fate," Casimir explained. "Until then, you are my responsibility." Over the next 2 days, Michael learned the brutal reality of the terminal. The island received periodic deliveries, sedated prisoners thrown from boats that never docked. With no guards, no outside rules, the inhabitants had established their own system, a council of 7 leaders, each controlling a specific territory and resources. "In the beginning it was total chaos," Casimir explained, as they shared a meal of raw fish. "We killed each other for food, shelter, power. Of the first 50, only 12 survived the first year. And now we have rules. Breaking the rules means exile to the northern reefs, where no one survives the tides. It works because everyone here knows we are humanity's last discard." On the 3rd day, Michael was brought before the council. 7 men and women with criminal histories. That included mass murder, terrorism, and war crimes. The leader, a former African military commander known only as General, conducted the interrogation. "A human rights lawyer," the general mused, examining his credentials. "You pose a threat to the existence of this island. If the world finds out about us," added a middle-aged woman with a refined British accent, "our suppliers will find another method of disposal. Or worse, they will decide to eliminate the evidence, all of us." The council's decision was unanimous. Michael could not leave the island. He would be integrated into the community, given fishing and gathering duties under constant supervision. Over the next few weeks, Michael mentally documented everything he observed. He identified prisoners of at least a dozen different nationalities. Some were clearly violent psychopaths. Others seemed more calculating. "Governments love this arrangement," explained the British woman, who Michael discovered was a former spy. "No paperwork, no human rights oversight, no ongoing costs. Just a one-off payment to the consortium that manages the deliveries." By the 2nd month, Michael had been granted limited privileges to roam the island. He secretly began planning his escape, studying the patterns of the supply boats that occasionally dropped off waterproof containers of essential items. His opportunity came during a tropical storm. With most of the inhabitants sheltering, Michael managed to reach the northern beach, where he had hidden a makeshift raft made of bamboo and empty plastic containers. Launching himself into the turbulent sea, he paddled desperately away from the island. After 2 agonizing nights adrift, he was rescued by a Philippine fishing boat. Without revealing the real story, he claimed to be a tourist whose boat had capsized. Back in civilization, Michael faced a moral dilemma. Exposing the island would likely mean condemning its inhabitants to death once the governments involved had eliminated the evidence. Not exposing it would mean allowing the practice to continue. His solution was meticulously calculated. He sent anonymous evidence to multiple international organizations simultaneously, including slightly imprecise coordinates of the island, enough to start investigations, but not enough for immediate action that could result in a cleansing of the island. The existence of the terminal has never been officially confirmed by any government. Subsequent journalistic investigations found only an uninhabited island at the indicated coordinates. However, analysis of satellite images from previous years revealed human activity that mysteriously ceased after the reports. Hey guys, the stories about desert islands are still creepy, aren't they? If you're enjoying these scary stories, take a quick break, subscribe to the channel, and leave a like. This really helps the channel grow and motivates me to keep bringing you more creepy content. Now let's get back to the next stories. There's still a lot of scary stuff ahead. The inheritance. The letter arrived on Elena Nordstrom's 30th birthday. The envelope, stamped with the letterhead of a Finnish law firm, contained startling news. Her great-uncle Gustav, whom she had barely known, had died, leaving her a substantial estate, a private island in the Åland archipelago between Finland and Sweden. He never mentioned owning an island, Elena told her mother over the phone. A university professor in Stockholm, Elena had met her uncle only twice as a child. Gustav was eccentric, the mother replied hesitantly. He broke off relations with his family decades ago. He preferred his isolation. 3 weeks later, Elena landed at the small port on Krokholmen Island. Just 2 square kilometers in size, the property was dominated by dense pine forest and dotted with rock formations. At its center was a 2-story wooden house in traditional Nordic style. Surprisingly, well maintained. "Welcome to your inheritance," greeted Lars Eriksson, the lawyer who accompanied her. Gustav lived here for almost 40 years. He rarely left. The house was a disconcerting mix of rustic and sophisticated. Antique furniture sat alongside. Modern appliances, including a solar power system and satellite communications. On the walls hung impressive hunting trophies: elk, bear, wolves. Your uncle was an avid hunter, Lars explained. He considered this island his personal paradise. After showing him the property, the lawyer handed him the keys and documents. "I'll be on the mainland for 2 more days. The boat is at the dock when you decide to leave." Alone, Eleanor methodically explored the house. In the study, she found meticulously kept journals for decades. The earliest entries described conventional hunting trips. Gradually, the tone changed. "Traditional hunting no longer offers a challenge," read one 2005 entry. "Only the ultimate adversary provides the thrill I seek." With growing horror, Elena realized her uncle didn't just hunt animals. Subsequent entries detailed expeditions to the mainland to select specimens. Vulnerable people, often homeless or undocumented immigrants, whom no one else would seek out. A detailed map of the island revealed carefully planned hunting zones with traps, camouflaged watchtowers, and even a system of tunnels connecting different areas. In the basement, he found a locked room containing disturbing equipment, cages, handcuffs, and what appeared to be a processing area. Disgusted, Eleanor decided to leave immediately and report everything to the authorities. As she gathered evidence, she heard the engine of a boat approaching. Through the window, she saw a boat larger than the lawyer's docking. 3 men and a woman disembarked, followed by 2 disoriented-looking individuals with their hands tied. They were clearly not there of their own free will. Elena quickly hid as the group approached the house. Through a crack in the curtain, she noticed Lars Eriksson among them. He had not returned to the mainland as he had claimed. "Is your niece settled in?" asked an elderly man with a German accent. "Yes, Herr Müller," Lars replied. She found the diaries as planned. The initiation can begin tomorrow. Excellent. Gustav talked a lot about his potential. The family blood, you know. With growing horror, Elena realized it wasn't just her uncle. There was a group, rich and powerful, people who used the island for their hunts. And now they expected her to join them, taking over the family legacy. Silently, Elena gathered her essentials into a backpack, including diaries as evidence. She had to escape before dawn. The house, she realized, was being watched. Her only chance was to use her newfound knowledge against them. Through the diaries, he discovered the entrance to the tunnel system hidden in the pantry. The underground walkways, built during the Cold War as bunkers, connected strategic points on the island. Following a map found in the office, he navigated through the darkness until he emerged near the secondary dock, where a small motorboat was stored. As he approached the boat, he heard a soft noise behind him. Turning quickly, he found one of the guests, a young Asian man with a terrified expression. "Help me," he whispered in halting English. "Please." The decision was instantaneous. Together, they untied the boat and set off silently, using only the chain until they were far enough away to start the engine. The alarm sounded when they were halfway to the mainland. Lights came on all over the island, and a larger boat gave chase. The smaller, more agile speedboat managed to navigate between shallow rocks that the pursuer could not risk. By dawn, they reached Mariehamn, the capital of the archipelago. Elena drove the young man, a Thai student named Sitichok, who'd been drugged and kidnapped while on holiday in Scandinavia, straight to the police. The ensuing investigation revealed an international manhunting network operating for decades. Gustav Island was just one of several locations used by the group, which included businessmen, politicians, and even a retired judge. Lars Eriksson was arrested while trying to leave the country. Of the other members present on the island, only Herr Müller was captured. The others disappeared, protected by powerful connections. The remaining guests were found on the island, traumatized but alive. The retreat. The waterway cut elegantly through the water as it ferried the 8 Nexus Pharmaceuticals executives to the secluded part of Jeju Island. The private resort, visible only as a modern complex nestled between volcanic cliffs, would be their home for the next 5 days during their annual leadership retreat. "Welcome to the future of Nexus," Victor Kang, the 45-year-old CEO, announced, as they stepped onto the private pier. "Here, away from distractions, we will redefine the direction of the company." Sarah Chen, the 38-year-old chief financial officer, was watching the group with an analytic eye. They were all senior executives. David Park, the chief operating officer, Mina Kim, the chief legal officer, James Wilson, the director of research, and 4 regional directors. They all looked tense, despite their professional smiles. The resort was stunning, minimalist architecture integrated into the volcanic landscape with panoramic ocean views. Each executive was given an individual suite and a detailed itinerary. "Our first exercise begins in an hour," Victor informed. "Wear comfortable clothes." During the welcome dinner, Sarah noticed something strange. The resort staff had disappeared after serving the meal. Victor explained that to ensure absolute privacy, the staff returned to the mainland, returning only for refueling. "We're completely isolated," he smiled. "Just us and our corporate challenges." The first day was spent with conventional team-building activities. It was the second day that everything changed. During a hike through the volcanic forest, the group was divided into pairs for an orientation exercise. Sarah was assigned to James, the research director, a reserved man who rarely spoke in meetings. "Something is wrong with this retreat," James whispered as they followed the designated trail. "Victor knows." "You know what?" asked Sarah. "About the falsified data in the neuroxin clinical trials. I found out 3 weeks ago. I confronted him privately. Neuroxin was Nexus's revolutionary Alzheimer's drug, responsible for the meteoric rise in the company's stock price. Falsifying the data would be catastrophic." Before James could elaborate, a sharp sound cut through the air. He fell forward, a high-tech arrow protruding from his back. Sarah froze in disbelief, then instinctively dove into the dense vegetation as a second arrow grazed her head. Hidden among the volcanic rocks, she noticed a figure in camouflage moving silently along the trail. She recognized Victor's characteristic gait. For the next few hours, Sarah stealthily navigated through the forest, trying to reach the resort. Along the way, she found David, the director of operations, hiding in a volcanic cave, bleeding from a wound in his shoulder. "It's a purge," he explained, his voice weak. "Victor is eliminating everyone who knows about the company's wrongdoing. It's not just neuroxin. There's money laundering, bribes to regulators." A noise outside the cave interrupted him. Seconds later, a small metal sphere rolled inside, releasing dense gas. Sarah managed to escape through a fissure on the side, but David was left behind, coughing violently. By nightfall, Sarah reached the resort, finding it eerily quiet. In the control room, she discovered monitors displaying feeds from cameras around the island and a map marking the locations of executives, 3 already marked with red X's. A noise in the hallway alerted her. Mina Kim, the legal director, limped, in a makeshift tourniquet on her leg. "We need to contact the mainland," Mina said urgently. "Victor's gone mad. He has a team, mercenaries disguised as resort staff." "Why?" Sarah asked. "Why not just fire us?" "Because we know too much," Mina replied. "I found out that neuroxin causes fatal side effects in 3% of patients. Victor hid the data. This is mass corporate homicide." Using the resort's communication system, they attempted to send an SOS, only to find that all communications were blocked, except for a secure channel that required biometric authentication from Victor. "We need his finger on the scanner," Mina concluded, "or we're stuck here." A desperate plan took shape. Using the camera system, they spotted Victor and 2 mercenaries returning to the resort. Sarah and Mina set a trap in the dining room, using kitchen equipment as makeshift weapons. As Victor entered, he was greeted by a blast of superheated steam from the modified pressure cookers. In the confusion, Sarah managed to temporarily immobilize him while Mina neutralized one of the mercenaries with a fire extinguisher. "You don't understand," Victor said as they dragged him toward the biometric scanner. "The company wouldn't survive the scandal. Thousands of jobs, billions in value. Sometimes sacrifices are necessary." "People are dying because of your medicine," Sarah replied. "How many sacrifices are acceptable?" With Victor's finger forced into the scanner, they sent a detailed SOS to Korean authorities, including evidence of the island murders and corporate wrongdoing. The response was swift. Coast Guard helicopters arrived at dawn, finding only 4 survivors of the original 8 executives. Victor and his mercenaries were detained, while evidence was meticulously collected by the police. The subsequent investigation exposed one of the biggest pharmaceutical frauds in history. Neuroxin was immediately pulled from the market. Nexus Pharmaceuticals collapsed, but the evidence provided by Sarah and Mina saved countless lives. The transmission, Ethan and Olivia Coleman's smiles lit up the screen as the host announced, "Our big winners from the final season of Survival for Two win 6 months in paradise." The audience cheered wildly as the young couple embraced, tears of joy streaming down Olivia's face. After weeks of grueling competition against 9 other couples, they had won the grand prize, half a year on a private island with $1 million reward upon their return. "It's the fresh start we needed," whispered Ethan, 29, a recently unemployed physical education teacher. Olivia, a 27-year-old nurse, nodded. After losing their home in a fire and racking up astronomical medical debts from Olivia's mother's cancer treatment, reality TV had seemed like their last hope. 2 weeks later, a seaplane dropped them off on a stunning island in the Fiji archipelago. A luxurious cabin awaited, stocked with supplies for the first 2 months. Regular deliveries would bring the rest. "Welcome to private paradise," the pilot announced before departing. "Remember, you have agreed to occasional filming for the show's social media updates. The cameras are automatic. There will be no crew on the island." The first month was idyllic. The cabin offered comfort without the frills of technology: solar power, filtered rainwater, and a small vegetable garden. Ethan and Olivia settled into a relaxed routine, alternating between exploring the island, swimming in the coral reef, and simply enjoying the peace and quiet they needed. It was at the beginning of the second month that they noticed the first anomalies. A storm had destroyed part of the roof of the hut, strangely, only over the food storage area. The scheduled delivery of supplies was delayed by a week, forcing them to ration drastically. "Must just be bad luck," Ethan commented, repairing the roof with improvised materials. When the delivery finally arrived, it contained fewer items than expected and a note explaining that weather conditions would limit future deliveries. It also included an emergency radio with limited range. Olivia, ever observant, began to notice disturbing patterns. "The cameras are changing positions," she remarked during a walk. "Yesterday there were 3 in the beach area. Today there are 5. "They must be gathering more material for social media updates," Ethan suggested, though his voice betrayed uncertainty. The first radio transmission came during a particularly violent storm in the 3rd month. A voice interrupted by static informed that due to unforeseen circumstances, the next delivery would be postponed indefinitely. When Ethan tried to respond, he discovered that the radio only allowed reception, not transmission. The situation deteriorated rapidly. The vegetable garden they had carefully tended was destroyed overnight. Footprints indicated wild boar, though Olivia swore she had never seen such animals on the island before. The rainwater developed a strange taste, causing them stomach pains for days. "This isn't normal," Olivia insisted as they rationed the last of their supplies. "They're doing this on purpose." Confirmation came unexpectedly. During a storm that forced them to take shelter in a small coastal cave, they found abandoned equipment, a broken camera, and a partially water-damaged tablet. The device was still functional enough to reveal the horrifying truth. They were not participating in occasional social media updates, but in a continuous broadcast called Paradise Lost, available by subscription on an exclusive dark web platform. The tablet contained production memos with explicit instructions: gradually increase stress. Audiences pay to see real deterioration, not vacations. "We're lab rats," Ethan muttered in horror. "They're watching us, suffering." Another document revealed something even more disturbing. They weren't the first. 3 other couples had participated in previous seasons, each ending when the participants reached commercially satisfactory psychological breaking points. Armed with this knowledge, Ethan and Olivia devised a plan. Rather than confront the cameras directly, they feigned ignorance while secretly preparing their escape. Using materials from the cabin, they constructed a rudimentary raft, working only in the camera blind spots they had meticulously mapped. On the night they planned to escape, a speedboat unexpectedly approached the island. Apparently, producers worried about the lack of recent dramatic content. Ethan and Olivia hid in the woods, watching three men disembark with equipment. "We need to increase the pressure," one of them said. "The public is complaining that this couple is too resilient. Implement the sleep deprivation protocol." When the men split up to install new equipment, the couple managed to ambush the one near the boat. Using the boat, they fled in the darkness, sailing for hours until they reached an inhabited island. Fijian authorities were initially skeptical, but the damaged tablet provided enough evidence to launch an investigation. What they discovered shocked even seasoned investigators. Paradise Lost was just one of several similar programs operating globally, broadcasting real human suffering as premium entertainment. Of the three previous couples, one had been rescued in devastating psychological conditions. Another had supposedly given up, although no record of their repatriation existed. And the third remained officially missing. The production company, a shadowy subsidiary of a larger media conglomerate, denied knowledge of the illegal activities, claiming that independent producers had corrupted the original concept. Only two mid-level producers faced criminal charges. The lighthouse thick fog shrouded the lighthouse when the small supply boat finally docked. Dr. Eliza Morgan, a 34-year-old oceanographer, gazed up at the imposing structure that would be a home for the next 12 months. "Are you sure you'll be okay here alone?" Captain O'Malley asked. "Skellig isn't for everyone. Deep current research requires isolation," Eliza replied. "Besides, there's Mr. Finnegan at the weather station, right?" O'Malley hesitated. "He rarely leaves the north side of the island. He's secretive." The lighthouse had been automated, but the Irish Maritime Authority had a resident technician for maintenance. When the position opened, Eliza saw the perfect opportunity for her study of underwater currents. In the first week, Eliza settled into her research routine. It was during an exploration of the west coast that she made her first disturbing discovery, a cove where boat wreckage had accumulated in surprising quantities. Searching through the lighthouse's archives, he found some disturbing anomalies. Over the past 30 years, the rate of shipwrecks near the island had significantly exceeded regional statistics. Stranger still, many had occurred on nights when conditions were navigable. During a particularly violent storm, Eliza discovered that the lighthouse had been turned off. This was not due to a technical fault. Someone had manually disabled the system. Reactivating it, she noticed a figure on the beach below, looking out over the stormy sea. In the morning, Eliza followed footprints to an entrance in the cliffs, a tunnel that led to modified natural chambers. In the first room, tables with nautical instruments and journals. In the second, something terrifying, a study room with dissection tables and shelves containing preservative jars of human specimens. "Admiring my collection, Dr. Morgan?" Eliza found an elderly man blocking the exit. "Mr. Finnegan, I presume." "Malcolm Finnegan, former lighthouse keeper and collector, as you can see." Finnegan explained his work. For decades, he had deliberately turned off the lighthouse during storms, causing shipwrecks. Survivors became subjects for his anatomical studies. "You are a murderer," she said. "I'm a researcher like you," he corrected. "And now I need an apprentice with your scientific training." Finnegan led her to a lower chamber where a shipwrecked fisherman was tied up. While the old man prepared his instruments, Eliza took the opportunity to strike him with a heavy lantern. Releasing the fisherman, Eliza guided him to the surface. The SOS signal she had discreetly activated had worked. A Coast Guard helicopter was approaching the island. The investigation revealed that in 30 years as a lighthouse keeper, Finnegan had caused at least 18 documented shipwrecks, resulting in more than 40 deaths. His collection contained the remains of dozens of victims. For Eliza Morgan, there remains the recurring nightmare of the shelves of vials and the question, how many other solitary guardians have turned positions of trust into opportunities for unimaginable horrors? And for sailors who rely on lighthouses as safety guides, there remains the unsettling possibility that not all lights that go out in storms are victims of technical failures. Some are deliberately extinguished by those waiting for the sea to deliver its offerings. And so we come to the end of our 7 horror stories involving people stranded on desert islands. So, which one scared you the most? Will any of these make you think twice about embarking on that excursion to a remote island? Tell us in the comments which one was your favorite. If you enjoyed this dive into the scary world of isolated islands, don't forget to leave a like. This really helps the channel grow and encourages me to bring you more spine-chilling stories. And if you're not a subscriber yet, take advantage now to subscribe and activate the bell.